The air in this reclaimed substation hums with the scent of ozone and old dust, a counterpoint to the hot metal of the war surplus transmitter. Hand-labeled vinyl sleeves lean against the console, smelling faintly of nicotine and time. Outside, the city breathes, a dense network of neon arteries. Just
Black Star Pirate Radio.
London checks in at 72 degrees and partly cloudy. Winds are moving from the southwest at 5 miles per hour.
Drop your shoulders. Scan the feed. The data streams show the Strait of Hormuz as a critical choke point. Iran's Revolutionary Guard recently stopped 3 oil tankers there. This choke point handles over 20% of the world's daily petroleum consumption. Trump's language, largest yet attack, is a deliberate escalation of rhetoric, moving beyond deterrence to explicit threat of retaliatory destruction.
Largest yet attack. Such language bypasses the human cost, doesn't it? It frames conflict as a chess game of infrastructure, not a cascading wave of terror for ordinary families. The unimaginable, Guterres warns of, isn't just geopolitical instability. It's the psychological collapse, the erosion of dignity that comes when entire populations are made collateral, rendered invisible by high-stakes pronouncements from far away. This is the toxic residue of old wounds being leveraged for new power plays.
Precisely. The concrete facts are a UN Secretary General warning the Security Council that the region is on the edge of the unimaginable, and a former U.S. president explicitly threatening direct military strikes on civilian infrastructure. Who is affected? Millions of civilians in Iran and neighboring states who stand to lose homes, lives, and basic services. The global economy, too, would reel from disrupted oil supplies and shattered confidence.
So, how do we discern an architectural signal from this static of threat? What viable alternatives exist beyond this binary of conflict? A reel-to-reel stutters somewhere in the back room, then finds its groove. The board glows amber.
One viable alternative would be an immediate, multilateral diplomatic push. This means re-engaging with a framework similar to the JCPOA, but broadened to include regional security dialogues. The focus must shift from punitive isolation to structured de-escalation, establishing direct, verifiable communication channels between all parties.
And that requires a recognition of shared humanity, doesn't it? Moving beyond the myth of the other as an unyielding enemy. It's about remembering that even in the most entrenched conflicts, there are underlying needs for security, respect, and self-determination. When those are ignored, fear becomes the primary architect.
Our next move, then, must be for the international community to convene an emergency summit, potentially under UN auspices, specifically on Middle East de-escalation. This platform must prioritize humanitarian concerns and work towards a ceasefire, followed by establishing a neutral, third-party negotiation framework. We must insist on a path that favors consent over coercion and dignity for all populations. This isn't just about preventing war. It's about rebuilding trust.
From the precipice of potential conflict, we turn our gaze to resilience in the face of natural disaster. Shifting geographies, we land in Japan. Public housing has now been completed in Ishikawa for Noto quake victims. This marks the first time that construction of public housing units for victims of the January 2024 earthquake has been completed in the prefecture.
This is a critical development. The January 1st Noto earthquake caused extensive damage, displacing tens of thousands. The completion of these first public housing units, nearly 10 months post-disaster, offers tangible relief. It's a concrete step in a long recovery process, providing stable shelter which is foundational for rebuilding lives.
Shelter isn't just four walls, it's provenance. A sense of belonging again after the earth itself has betrayed your trust. The psychological toll of displacement is immense. These units, though a first step, represent a reestablishment of dignity, a communal architecture of care. It's the inverse of the architecture of fear we just discussed. Here, the architecture is built on shared vulnerability and collective will to restore.
Indeed. The concrete fact is the completion of these initial housing units in Ishikawa for victims of the January 2024 Noto earthquake. Who is affected? Primarily, the thousands of displaced residents, many of whom have been living in temporary accommodations. A viable alternative for future disaster response could be a more rapid deployment of modular, culturally appropriate housing solutions, developed in partnership with local communities to ensure they reflect local needs and aesthetics, truly building back better with enhanced seismic resilience and green infrastructure. The next move is to transparently communicate the full rollout plan for all remaining displaced residents and to integrate mental health support directly into the resettlement process, ensuring these new homes foster community, not just shelter.
We have already run that tape. Here is the close-loop takeaway.
Anish Gawande's statement highlights a significant political phenomenon. For years, the Modi government and the BJP have cultivated a powerful narrative, often perceived as an architecture of fear, which has largely stifled dissent. The student protests indicate a counter-narrative emerging, one of collective defiance against established power structures. This isn't just isolated unrest, it's a structural challenge to the prevailing political order.
The architecture of fear relies on the myth of an all-powerful, unchallengeable authority. But youth, by their very nature, are architects of the future. They embody the principle of unwavering autonomy. When a generation says not scared anymore, they are reclaiming their self-worth, which is structural, not contingent on external validation. They're discerning the toxic residue of fear-mongering from the architectural signal of genuine civic participation and dignity. This is a profound shift in the inner compass of a nation.
The concrete facts here are the widespread student protests across India, as described by NCP spokesperson Anish Gawande, challenging what he calls the BJP's architecture of fear. Who is affected? Millions of Indian youth and students, whose political engagement is vital for the future of Indian democracy. Also affected are the ruling BJP party, opposition parties seeking to channel this energy, and the very fabric of India's civil society. A viable alternative to the current political climate would be for the government to engage in genuine, respectful dialogue with these student movements, creating formal channels for their concerns to be heard and integrated into policymaking, rather than dismissed or suppressed. This would strengthen democratic institutions by upholding consent.
A critical next move, Kaylin.
For the students, the next move involves coalescing around specific, actionable policy demands beyond general dissent, and for opposition parties to actively amplify these youth voices, integrating their concerns into a national platform. This could turn diffuse confusion into clear, actionable vectors for change, strengthening India's civic architecture.
Patching in a caller, the pattern auditor. You're on the signal.
Thanks for taking the call. Are we keeping people at the center of all this change?
Copy that. Bringing it back to the main thread.
The weave depends on us remembering the human thread.
And it means setting guardrails so progress serves people first.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.